Chosen one, lock your attention on what I am about to say and do. Not let your mind wander for even 1 second. That restlessness you have been carrying all week, the feeling that something is being decided without you, somewhere you cannot see, that is not anxiety. That is discernment. Two people are in a serious conversation about you right now, and the moment you feel the weight of that land in your spirit, I need you to understand something. The stars did not align for this message to reach you today by coincidence. There is a reason this arrived in your hands at this exact hour. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason and one reason only. He sees what you cannot see yet. He sees the conclusion of a conversation that heaven already finished, and he is terrified of the moment you find out what was said. It all ends here. The silence, the wondering, the nights where you replayed every interaction, trying to figure out where things shifted. But here is what you need to hear clearly. It is not ending because of luck. It is ending because of what you have done. Think back to that moment earlier this week when you almost said something. Maybe you were standing in front of your phone, typing out a message you had written and rewritten 4 times, and then you stopped. You deleted it. You stayed silent. You walked away from an energy that was pulling you to react. You did not know it then, but that restraint sent a signal into the spirit realm that cannot be undone. You did not lose control. You passed a test the enemy designed specifically to disqualify you. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment that was written before the foundations of the earth were laid. You are standing at the edge of a revelation. Stay through every second of this, because in the next few minutes I am going to reveal the exact nature of the conversation being had about you and why the stars have marked this specific season as your moment. I am going to hand you the spiritual verdict that silences every lie the accuser has planted in your mind this week. And at the end I am going to give you the declaration that seals this chapter shut and opens the next one. Do not click away. Your future self is standing at the door of everything you have been believing for, and they are begging you to stay. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not simply been quiet. It has been weighted. Like something enormous is pressing against the ceiling of your life, waiting for permission to come through. Maybe you have been moving through your days normally, going through the motions. But inside, there has been this low hum of awareness that something is shifting in a dimension you cannot fully access yet. Maybe you woke up at 3 in the morning this week, and your first thought was about a specific person. Not because you were thinking about them before you fell asleep, but because something pulled you out of rest and placed them directly in the center of your awareness. Or maybe it was something more subtle. Maybe you found yourself pausing in the middle of an ordinary moment, doing dishes or driving or sitting in silence, and you felt this sudden and unexplainable certainty that your name was being spoken somewhere, that a decision was being made, that a conversation had moved past the point of casual and into something serious. You feel suspended between two worlds, the one where nothing has visibly changed yet and the one that you have been praying toward, working toward, holding in faith even when it felt foolish. And in that suspended place, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that the reason this feels so heavy is because the conversation going on about you is not going in your favor. He has been replaying specific moments in your mind. That moment you did not show up the way you intended. That season when you pulled back instead of pressing in. That version of yourself you are not proud of. And he has been telling you that is what they are talking about. That is the version of you under discussion. That is why the silence has been so loud. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Romans 8:31 says, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" Listen to what that promise actually means. It does not say if God is for us, no one will ever talk. It does not say if God is for you, no opinions will be formed or no conversations will be had. It says if God is for you, it does not matter who or what positions itself against you. The conversation the enemy wants you to fear is not the conversation heaven is having. And heaven has already spoken your name with favor. You are not in a trial, you are in a verdict. The heaviness pressing down on you right now is not the weight of judgment. It is the weight of imminence. It is the atmospheric pressure that arrives right before something locked begins to open. You have felt this before. You know the difference between punishment and anticipation. What you are feeling is anticipation. That moment when you walked away, when you stayed silent, when you refused to chase and beg and perform for an outcome you deserve without performance. That was not weakness. That was not you losing the conversation. That was you becoming someone worth the conversation. That was the strategy. Most chosen ones who hear a message like this feel the fire for about 48 hours. Then the dryness returns. The doubt creeps back. The silence gets louder. And within a week, they are exactly where they were before, waiting, wondering, spiritually exhausted. That cycle breaks today, or it does not. The inner sanctum puts a prophetic word from the throne room in your hands every single morning. 365 days of hearing God before the world can speak first. The link is in the first pinned comment. It will not be there forever, and neither will this window God just opened for you. And before we go any further, if what you just heard already resonated somewhere deep inside you, I want you to know there's something I put together specifically for people like you. It's a guide that goes even deeper than what we'll cover today, uncovering the hidden spiritual patterns, the divine signals, and the sacred agreements being written over your life right now. The link is in the description. Get it? Because what you're about to hear is going to make a lot more sense when you have the full picture in your hands. Now let's go deeper. Because what you need to understand is this: that conversation happening about you, it didn't start with people, it started in the heavens. Before any human being opened their mouth, before any name was whispered in any room, there was a discussion being held in dimensions you can't see about, a life you haven't fully stepped into yet. Imagine the cosmic court of heaven, a grand council where your destiny is not merely debated, but actively authored. This isn't about gossip, it's about the unfolding of divine purpose. And the reason it feels like the whole world is suddenly shifting around you, like things are moving, like something is about to change, is because it is. You are the subject of a divine negotiation. The very fabric of reality is being rewoven around your emergence, and the stars are not speaking casually. They are speaking urgently, like celestial heralds announcing a momentous arrival. But here's where most people miss it entirely. They feel the shift. They sense the movement, a stirring in their soul like the first tremors of an earthquake. They have the dreams, the signs, the fleeting moments where something deep inside them whispers, "This is it," and then they shrink. It's not a lack of belief in the possible, but a profound deficit in self-worth. They don't believe they are worthy of being the vessel through which such wonders unfold. They've been carrying a version of themselves meticulously constructed from the shards of other people's pronouncements. Someone else spoke their identity into existence before the Creator had the chance to whisper it. And the deepest tragedy is not the imposition of another's definition, but the tragic acceptance of it as truth. You became a prisoner in a cell built by words that were never yours. Think about Gideon. When the angel of the Lord appeared to him, Gideon was not poised for victory. He was in a state of profound hiding. He was threshing wheat in a winepress, a place designed for the crushing of grapes, not the beating of grain, a physical manifestation of his fear. He was performing an act of survival, disguised as a productive endeavor. His actions were out of alignment with his true calling, and yet heaven didn't address him as the terrified man he appeared to be. Heaven declared him a mighty man of valor, not as he was in that moment of hiding, but as he had been eternally designated in the divine blueprint. The angel's purpose was not to encourage a man shrinking in the shadows, but to awaken a giant who had forgotten his own strength, to remind a lion that he had been living like a mouse for far too long. And that's precisely the cosmic drama unfolding within you right now. Because the conversation being held about you in the celestial realms isn't about your catalogue of failures. It isn't about the stumbles, the setbacks, the quiet seasons, or the years that felt like they dissolved into oblivion. It is about your divine assignment. And assignments in the spirit are not subject to expiration dates. They are eternal. They wait. They patiently await the appointed time, the prepared vessel, the soul that is ready, not necessarily perfected, but prepared. And something about the exact coordinates of your life right now, something about this very breath you are taking, has sent a resounding signal to heaven. Ready is now. The moment of divine activation has arrived, but here's where the revelation deepens, and I implore you to remain present, for this is the precipice where many turn back, paralyzed by fear or misunderstanding. The celestial beings engaged in this profound discourse about you, not all of them are simply cheering you on. Some of them are watchful, even concerned, not with malice but with a divine urgency, because they perceive a brilliance within you that you have yet to fully embrace and embody. There are individuals, both seen and unseen, who have been observing the unfolding narrative of your life, anticipating your arrival at thresholds you've hesitated to cross. Your mentor, whose counsel has been silent for months, is still observing your inner landscape. The person who first recognized your potential, whose early belief in you was a beacon you may have almost extinguished from memory, they have not forgotten you. And operating on frequencies beyond our immediate perception, there are forces intrinsically aligned with your ultimate purpose, poised to advance the moment you take your first courageous step. Doors do not spontaneously swing open on their own hinges, but neither do they remain eternally sealed against the divinely chosen. They simply await the signal of your willingness to push. And what is about to be revealed, I ask you to lean in, to stay with me, is the part that will likely challenge every deeply ingrained assumption you hold about the reasons for your perceived delays. Because, let's be honest, you've probably crafted an elaborate narrative for why things haven't manifested. Perhaps you've labeled it as unfortunate timing, a cosmic lottery you lost. Maybe you've placed the blame on external forces, on others who you felt thwarted your progress. Or perhaps you've spiritualized it, declaring it wasn't God's season. And yes, there are undeniable moments where divine timing operates with sovereign precision. But often the perceived delay isn't a withholding from heaven. Sometimes the delay is a reflection of your own internal landscape. It's not about your sin or your failures, not in the way you might fear. It is your fear, masterfully disguised in the cloak of patience. It is your avoidance, adorned in the elegant costume of preparation. There is a profound difference between a soul being divinely prepared and a soul using the concept of preparation as a legitimate excuse to remain inert. And if you are willing to look with unvarnished honesty, truly honest, you know which of those has been your reality. Consider the story of Joseph. He did not choose to reside in the pit. That was a destiny imposed upon him. But from the moment he was extricated, he moved with purpose. In Potiphar's house, he served with an excellence that radiated from within. In the confines of prison, he interpreted dreams with unwavering faithfulness. He did not wait for the perfect sterile environment to fully express his gifts. He showed up, fully present and engaged in every imperfect circumstance until the perfect moment finally dawned. And when Pharaoh's summons came, Joseph was not merely ready, he was profoundly prepared, because he had steadfastly refused to allow any external environment, however dire, to diminish the essence of what heaven had called him to be. That is the archetypal model for us, not waiting for external conditions to miraculously align. It is about cultivating an unshakable inner steadfastness, an unmovable core, regardless of the shifting sands of circumstance. And this brings us to a deeply uncomfortable truth, a confrontation with a reality that most souls instinctively shy away from. The divine conversation happening in the heavens about your life. It is not a monologue of unadulterated celebration. It contains a profound tension, because there is another voice present in that sacred space. There is a force that has also been speaking your name, and its intonation is anything but divine. There is an adversary, a spiritual opponent, who understands the blueprint of your assignment with an acuity that may surpass your own. And this realization should cause you to pause. The enemy does not expend energy on the inconsequential. Spiritual opposition is not a marker of divine disfavor or a sign that you are cursed. It is, in fact, a powerful testament to your inherent significance. the persistent level of resistance you have encountered in your life, the soul-wearying cycles that seem to repeat endlessly, the doors that slam shut just as your hand reaches the knob, the relationships that fracture at the very moments of critical connection. These are not random occurrences, they are targeted. And being targeted is irrefutable proof that you matter profoundly. But here's where the confrontation escalates, where the veil is lifted even further. Coming up, I am going to reveal to you the hidden agreement you unknowingly entered into, the invisible contract that has been granting the enemy legal standing and operational access within your life. Stay with me, for this is a revelation that can liberate. Because beneath the surface of spiritual opposition, beneath the weight of broken patterns and the relentless march of recurring cycles, there lies a silent agreement you have made, a concession to limitations you were never designed to accept. It wasn't a document signed in a physical courtroom, nor was it a conscious, deliberate choice made in a moment of clarity. It was a moment, perhaps years ago, perhaps in the tender vulnerability of childhood, perhaps in a season of soul-searing pain, where an event transpired, and in its aftermath you drew a conclusion. And that conclusion, forged in the crucible of that moment, solidified into a covenant with limitation, a covenant with diminishment, a covenant with the muted version of yourself that others found palatable, that didn't threaten their comfort. Perhaps a figure of authority, someone whose opinion carried immense weight, told you that you were too much. And in your formative years you internalized that decree as gospel. Perhaps you experienced a public failure, a moment of profound exposure, and the residual shame led you to the conclusion that the safest path forward was to never fully commit or risk again. Or perhaps you were granted a fleeting glimpse of your own inherent greatness, a radiant potential that, instead of inspiring you, instilled a deep and terrifying fear. Because true greatness, you perceived, comes with an immense weight of responsibility, an unsettling vulnerability, and the kind of visibility that inevitably makes one a target for wounds. So, you unconsciously agreed to remain hidden. You agreed to occupy a space beneath your potential. And in a profound spiritual misinterpretation, you began to label this self-imposed confinement as humility. But heaven regards it differently. Heaven calls it a binding agreement, a pact that has been hindering your destiny, an agreement that is now ripe for severance. Because you were never divinely destined for mere comfort. You were born to be consequential. And this, my friends, is the very essence of what the stars are proclaiming. This is the heart of the celestial conversation. It is not a debate about your capacity to achieve remarkable feats by human metrics. It is a profound inquiry into whether you will finally align yourself with the divine declaration made about you before the dawn of time, before your family projected their aspirations onto you, before the world assigned you a predetermined role, before the accumulated wounds of your journey taught you to contract yourself, to diminish your own light. There was a word, a singular powerful decree, spoken over your very existence in the timeless expanse of eternity. And that word, that foundational truth, has been relentlessly pursuing you through every closed door, every seemingly random detour, every stark and desolate wilderness season. It has been a persistent, loving chase, endeavoring to guide you back into perfect alignment with the magnificent being you were always meant to be. Now we are entering a sacred space within this message, a realm that many are unequipped to navigate. But the fact that you are still here, that you have journeyed this far, signifies that you are ready. The single greatest impediment to your breakthrough, the deepest root of your stalled progress, is not the machinations of the enemy. It is not the lingering impact of those who have caused you pain. It is not even the broken agreement, as potent and real as that spiritual contract may be. The most profound block, the one lying dormant beneath all the others, is an unspoken, deeply ingrained belief that your own ultimate breakthrough would somehow be an act of injustice. A subconscious conviction that if you were to rise, to truly ascend into your full potential, someone else would inevitably have to fall. That if you were to experience genuine celebration, it would inherently come at another's expense. That if you were to receive abundance fully, you would somehow transmute into a person you find undesirable. And so, you have been engaged in unconscious self-sabotage, driven not by a fear of failure, but by a profound fear of what your authentic success might cost the people you hold dear. This is not humility. This is an insidious lie that has masterfully weaponized your purest love against your divinely ordained destiny. Esther embodied this very confrontation with such potent clarity. She stood on the precipice of terror before approaching the king, not because she lacked inner strength, but because she was exquisitely human, acutely aware of the monumental stakes and the all-encompassing risk. And Mordecai's words to her were not gentle reassurances. They were a stark spiritual truth. He did not offer platitudes like, "It'll be okay." He declared, "If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place." Your silence, he conveyed, does not safeguard anyone. It merely removes you from the divine equation. And if you have been specifically chosen for this critical moment, removing yourself from that equation is not an act of humility. It is an act of profound abdication. You have been intentionally placed here, in this specific epoch, endowed with this unique constellation of gifts, scarred by these particular wounds, woven from these precise stories, and forged through these very experiences. Not by chance, not as a cosmic error the universe is still attempting to rectify. You are a deliberate, irreplaceable thread in an infinitely grander tapestry, and the conversation unfolding in the heavens about you is not an inquiry into whether you are deserving. That question was definitively answered long before your first breath. The true essence of the conversation is a patient yet persistent inquiry. When will you finally utter your unequivocal yes? And now, prepare for the unexpected revelation, the final transformative layer that reframes everything you thought you understood. The two divine beings engaged in this profound, earnest dialogue concerning your life. They are not waiting for you to achieve a state of perceived perfection. They are not holding out for the day when every wound is healed, every fear is vanquished, every lingering doubt is dissolved, or when you have magically transformed into an immaculate version of yourself before they will advocate on your behalf. The celestial bodies, the stars themselves, are not holding their breath for a flawless human specimen. They are mobilized by a surrendered spirit. The breakthrough you have been yearning for is not contingent upon your readiness as you have narrowly defined it. It is contingent upon your willingness to move even when fear is a palpable presence, your willingness to trust when uncertainty is the only landscape you can see, your willingness to say yes to a calling that remains shrouded in mystery, a calling whose full scope you cannot yet comprehend. Because true faith was never about possessing a panoramic view of the entire staircase. It was always about the courage to place your foot upon the first step, trusting implicitly that the subsequent steps would reveal themselves in perfect sequence. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not when external circumstances magically align, not when you miraculously decipher the intricate how. It is now. This is the divinely appointed time, the season that prophets foresaw and chronicled within the unique narrative of your existence. The celestial alignments that were set in motion before your birth have converged over this present season, and heaven awaits, not with impatience but with an eager, expectant anticipation, for you to cease negotiating with the magnificent greatness that resides within you and to simply step forward into its light. Place your hand over your heart right now, feeling its steady rhythm, and speak these words with me, allowing them to resonate through your very being. I release every agreement I ever made with smallness. I release every covenant I entered into through pain, through fear, or through the suffocating expectations of others. I break alignment with every voice that was never heaven's voice, regardless of how long I have allowed it to dictate my reality. I declare with unwavering conviction that I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not too damaged, too late, or too ordinary for the extraordinary purposes that have been written over my life. I step into this season with an open hand and a surrendered heart. I say yes to the calling, even before I understand its full trajectory. I place my trust in the one who ignited that calling within me before I could even articulate a single word. I am not waiting for external permission. I have already been divinely granted it, And from this sacred moment forward, I walk as one who knows with absolute certainty that heaven is speaking my name, not as a cautionary echo, but as a powerful, compelling summons. I am ready. I am willing. And I am willing. If this message reached something real in you, something you've been feeling but haven't been able to name, don't let this moment pass without anchoring it. Leave a comment below and tell me what shifted for you today. Share this with someone whose name came up in your spirit while you were watching. Subscribe, because what's coming next in this series goes even deeper. And remember, the fact that you stayed until the very end of this message, that wasn't by accident either. You were supposed to be here, and heaven saw you show up.